for our session today, it will be again very quick and about one topic, which is honeypots. Main things regarding honeypots and the use of the honeypots and what does honeypots mean in computing. So if I ask one question, then I will go on with my slides regarding honeypots. Do you think that honeypots is a computer system or a computer machine itself? I would say one thing here, that a honeypot is a computer system and it might be a computer machine itself. So it's like the firewall. The firewall, it might be a software and it might be a hardware, a separate hardware as well. Right. So I will go over my slide in a bit, but I just want to, yes, please. Okay, I just want to mention what we will talk about, and these are the same what Paul has mentioned in his video. So let's say we'll talk about the definition of honeypots. What does honeypots mean? We will talk about a special kind of honeypot called the honey token as well. We will mention the 5 categories that already Paul mentioned in his video. Which is the types of honeypots, and we'll talk about some scenarios of honeypot implementation based on these categories of the honeypot. Then we'll talk about advantage and disadvantage of honeypots, and we will talk about the role of honeypots in network security. We will also mention some legal issues faced by honeypot. We will talk about some vulnerabilities honeypots also deal with, and some threats that also honeypots can be attacked on. Paul in his video has mentioned some kind of honeypots. Can anybody tell me the 2 kinds that, or the 2 examples that Paul has given in his video? So if I want to, just in a quick, Dania said mousetrap as well. Yeah, mousetrap is one of the famous honeypots as well. Okay, if I want to mention the definition, there are many definitions regarding honeypots. One of the main definition that honeypots is a computer system, as we mentioned, are used to attract attacker, and it's also a computer machine itself who can detect, deflect, and sometimes in some manner we use it to study for the researchers. So a honeypot is a security resource. It is. A honeypot is a computer. It is a computer. A honeypot can capture all different traffic and direct them to one different machine. Yeah, that's true. So this is the first things about identifying honeypots. Is it clear for everybody before we continue on the categories of honeypots? So whoever, yes, that's fine, Daniel. And I guess it's clear now because we all like honeys and we all like honeypots. So we use the term honeypots in computer system just to attract the unauthorized user, just to attract the malicious user, we call them sometimes, the different types of the attacker, the white hat attacker, the black hat attacker, and the gray hat attacker as well. So all of these kinds of attacker can be attracted to this honeypots. So this honeypots may have, let's say, different kind of information, different kind of services. In some scenarios, it might have some of the real services or a copy of the real services. In other scenarios, it may have, let's say, it may have a dummy information and not a real services. Sorry, I have somebody in my office. That's why I was looking for this. Okay. So this is an introduction regarding honeypots. Okay. If we are going to the next slide, we are talking about a special kind of honeypot. As Kais said, Paul has mentioned the email trap and the database honeypots as a special kind. Also, if we are talking about the honeypot, which is the computer system, which is a piece of software, so sometimes you may find it under the name of honey token. So honey token is a piece of software a piece of system, which is not a computer itself. It's a digital entity. It's like an Excel file machine, a PowerPoint presentation, a database entry. All of these honey tokens are used as a detecting system and deflecting system, so we can attract all the attacks to these honey tokens. Paul also mentions different categories of honeypots, the 5 categories, but these categories are, let's say, categorized based on 2 things. Based on the purpose of using these honeypots, we have 2 categories, and based on the interaction with the attacker and the spam traffic, we have 3 types of honeypots. Based on the purpose, we have the research honeypots that we will see in a bit. These research honeypots are used mainly to do a study about certain things and to get studies about, let's say, attacks, attackers, and malicious softwares. And sometimes these research honeypots does not normally added value to the organization or to the institution, rather than doing the research itself. The other kind is the production honeypot. The production honeypot is implemented in the production network itself, and it's also a low interaction honeypot. So these production honeypots are easy to be implemented in the software. In the network. Based on the interaction, we have 3 categories: the medium, low, and high. And sometimes they call the medium the pure honeypot. So we have the pure, and we have the high interaction, and the low. So here, let's say we have the pure honeypots. All right. Okay. So if we go on with these kinds, guys. So for example, here we do have, yes, so the research honeypots, as we said, the main purpose of these honeypots is to do a research, is to do a study. Either this study will be about attackers or about the attack patterns or about the attack motivations or behaviors. So mainly we are doing these honeypots in order to do a study. The same scenario as with your assignment. If you want to implement, let's say, a methodology as a honeypot, so you are doing this simulation or this study to collect information about this attack, or to collect information about some kind of attackers. Mainly the users regarding this kind of honeypots, the research honeypots, are mainly students or university professors, and sometimes we use it in development centers and governmental offices or in militaries, and also some types of cyber threats, students and researchers as well. So this is the first category, which is the research honeypot. The second, the research honeypot is also does not really provide any information, as we mentioned, to the organization. So it does not also provide any level of security to the organization. It might sometimes give an alert here, or an alert that there is an attack, or give you a detection after the attack happens, but it does not really designed to be a protection system for any organization. The other type of honeypots, which is the production honeypot. The production honeypot is the commercial one. The production honeypot is really used inside the production network, and we will see in a bit a figure where we can see a production honeypot and where it's used. It's also, as we mentioned, it's a low interaction honeypots, which means that it's easy to implement it inside the network, and it provides immediate security to the organization, and it's also attract all the attacker from the internal and the external network. So we can also learn through these production honeypots if an attack has been initiated from the internal network. What's the difference between Honeypot and intrusion detection system? Intrusion detection system is something really different. Intrusion detection system it detects the intrusion based on rules or on a statistics value that are defined on the system. And I guess Khalid has already mentioned that in last week. But again, we can talk about intrusion detection system next session next Saturday, because we will talk about network access control, and we'll also learn that intrusion detection system can also detect the manner of some attackers and directed them to the honeypots. So the honeypots, Faisal, if you want to understand that easier, it's a dummy system. It's a copy of your system where if you have found any attacker interested in some information at your network, you directed that attacker to that dummy system. So when they attack that dummy system, they did not attack the real data, the real network. So the honeypot is like a trap for the attacker, while the intrusion detection system is a system to detect the intruder. Great. So this is the difference between IDS and honeypot. And because I want to mention that this as well, intrusion detection system is either based on threshold values, based on statistics information. So we know that, let's say, all the employees at the university, they are working from, let's say, 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. So we have some information that we might use. We also know, let's say, rules. It's a rule-based system as well. So we can define some rules. If any of these rules has been infected, or any of these information has been measured and the gap has been reached, so the intrusion detection system can tell us that there is an intrusion inside the network. Okay. The third, I guess, yeah, the third honeypot, which is based on the interaction, and the first, which is based on the interaction, is the low interaction. And when we say the low interaction, we means that this honeypot has been detected inside the network with minimum transaction between this honeypot and the spam traffic. So if an attacker want to attack any of these network, so this network will forward or directed the traffic to the honeypot. And an example of the low interactive system, which is HoneyD, that Paul has just mentioned in his video. And HoneyD, to be honest, is an easy honeypot system to be implemented over your network. And there's another example about low interaction, and it's also exists in another video on prayer. So you will see under in guided learning as well, under lecture 7 honeypots, you will see another 2 links for YouTube videos, and they are all great videos that you need to see before the practical session with Khalid again. And one of them are talking about how to install a honeypot inside your network, and they are talking about the T-pod. T-pod is also another example of low interaction honeypots. So here we emulate some part in the low interaction, some part of the actual services. And when we say emulate, which means that we are simulating these services, they are not the real services. So if the honeypots has been attacked, so we will not lose any real services or any real data, right? Passive IDS, which means that the IDS is not really involved in the low interaction. So the HoneyD, for example, it analyzes the traffic and detect the spammer and the unauthorized access, and treat with these spammers. Yeah, this is a figure which show you a result of HoneyD scanning. So inside a real network, we have a number of spam email in the first figure and the number of unique IP addresses in the other figure, which means that there is, let's say, a spam detected inside this traffic. The second kind of, let's say, honeypots, the medium interaction, and you can see that the medium interaction is implemented in the internal network. And also here, there's no operating system, so we are not copying any of the services inside of the operating system. The medium interaction does not deal really with any of the existing protocol inside the network. It's only treat the traffic that the internal network directed to this honeypot. There are many examples regarding the medium interaction honeypots, as we mentioned before. MW Collect, Infants, and Honeytrap are all examples of medium interaction. The medium interaction is also, let's say, easy to be implemented, but it's really complex to detect any attack unless the internal network directed these attacks to this honeypot. So we do need intrusion detection system or intrusion prevention system to direct these attacks to this kind of honeypots. The third honeypot, which is the high interaction, and when we say a high interaction, we means that this kind of honeypots are really used in a complex way and are used in a very dedicated way to prevent all kinds of attacks. So if you can see in this figure here, we do have these yellows machines, which is the honeypot itself, and these yellows machine are a copy of the original production network. So here we do have the production network, the real network, and on the bottom we have the copy of these machines, and we have okay, I want to change the color just a minute, and we have also I will use a laser rather than okay, so we have here a copy of the real services, and here are the real services. We have the honeypot detecting system, let's say for example, the Honeywell gateway implemented right after the firewall or right after the router to the external network, to the internet. So this Honeywell can track all the packets which are received by the network. So can a hacker now, if he is in the real or honey? Can a hacker? No. Okay. Yes. Well, this is the main, let's say, this is the main objective of using the high interaction honeypots. So if we can convince the attacker that this is not, this is the real system, so all the traffic, all the honey traffic, all, let's say, the spam traffic will come through the Honeywell to the honeypots, which is on the bottom. The attacker, they can see, let's say, they can know it is a honeypot if they know the IP addresses. You have seen that this machine has a different IP addresses, but these IP addresses are initiated from the from the I forgot the name, from the HTTP and the router. So the domain name server, let's say, outside our network does not affect these IPs. No, not the HTTP. From the I'll find it. Generating IP addresses. HTTP, yes. The HTTP inside the router. Yeah. Yes. So if we know the IP addresses, we'll know that this is these are not the real machines. But I will ask you a question, Faisal, and also Roba. If I want to target, let's say, a salary system, or I want to target a acquisition system where all the employee information are based on. So if I found a dummy information, how can I tell that this is a dummy information? So it's not easy. That's why high interaction systems are so expensive, and that's why high interaction honeypots are really very closely monitored system. So they traffic. So the router, when they detect that this is an attacker or this is a spanner, or they, let's say, a malicious software inside these files, so they all directed this traffic to the honeypots. Again, it's not 100% guarantees that it will attract all the attacker to these honeypots machine, but the target from these honeypots down there is to detect all the attacks and deflect them, and also prevent them from finding the real machines. So this is the fourth or the fifth type of honeypots. Okay, implementation. But before talking about implementation, we need to consider some factors. What kind of data used in honeypot system? Do you want to use a real a copy of the real services, or do you want to use a low interaction, or do you want to use a high interaction? So all of these, let's say, kind of factors does really affect your implementation. So we need to know what kind of data used in honeypot system, how to prevent honeypot as a source of attack. So how to prevent honeypots as a source of attack means how to prevent the attacker from attacking the honeypot itself as well. Whether to build a honeypot or not to do so. Do you want to build a honeypot, or do you want to just use a software? Where do you prefer to implement your honeypot? Do you want to implement that directly after the main firewall or the main router to the internet, or do you want to implement that inside the internal networks? And sometimes when you locate the honeypot just after the router to the internet, you may prevent all the external attacks, but you may not prevent all of the internal attacks. So you need to place your honeypot in a location where it could prevent your internal and external attacks together as well. Advantage of using honeypots. We have many advantages of using honeypots. One of them is data value, which means that it protects your valuable data, and we have a dummy data. Even if we lose it, we will not lose anything. That's why it's a data value. The honeypot itself is a resource, and it's not an exhausted resource. So you need only to implement the honeypot network based on the factors that you need to define. It's also simplicity. Some kind of honeypots are only a few steps of algorithms that you need to implement inside your network, and there's no any let's say customized configuration that you need to configure, and there's no database to store any kind of data. So it's a return of investment if you are looking about securing your data and securing your business. So it's some kind of ROI, which is return of investment based on your organization value and your organization investment, and so on. Okay, what about disadvantages of using honeypots? What do you think? The first one, narrow vision of honeypot. What do you think about disadvantage? What does it mean, narrow vision of honeypot? True. It's like intrusion detection system. It's proactive. It's not proactive. It is not proactive. That's true. So we have two kinds of system. The first one is, let's say, preactive and proactive. Preactive means that we are detecting the attack before happening. while the honeypots, it's not really about detecting the attack, it's treat the attack. So that's why we only know about the attack while and after the attacks happen. That's why it's a narrow vision of honeypots. Okay, fingerprinting. What does fingerprinting mean? When we say disadvantage of honeypots is fingerprinting, that means if the attacker detects that there is a honeypot inside your network, they can treat it, they can deal with the honeypot, and they can run over these honeypots. So that means it is a fingerprinting. They have a signature for each honeypot. That's why we can categorize them. So that's why we can know that this network, for example, MEU network or bit4share network, they are using a high interaction honeypots. So we can know how to treat these high interaction. So this is one of the disadvantage of using honeypots. Risk, yes, risk, because you are not guaranteeing any kind of protection. So even in the research honeypots, sometimes we do honeypots for research purposes, and we do not collect any information. That's because it's a risky environment, right? So I guess these are all slides that I do have for today. Do you have any question regarding these, let's say, honeypots? Honeypots is an attractive also topics to read and to work with. See you next time then. See you, bye-bye.